Hey food fans, welcome to Cooking Like a Pro with Chef Cal and me, Mrs. Chef, his wife Christa DeMercurio. We're dishing out culinary intuition, insights, and imagination to spice up your meals and make cooking more fun. On today's episode, my chef husband and I discuss how aroma is part of flavor, hospitality that accommodates, and I get schooled in how to make a beef stock from scratch. Let's dig in. Today's episode was broadcast and recorded live on AM/FM radio.
Welcome to Cooking Like a Pro with Chef Cal and my beautiful wife, Mrs. Chef.
Good evening.
Yeah, well, you're back.
I'm back again.
Yep, you're back. We had a Charlou and Kathy last week, and this week you're back. So it's always great to have you sitting across. And so we're talking about food here again with Cooking Like a Pro, and we've been working on a variety of things. Something my Mrs. Chef has been working on for a while is this booklet. I guess you call it a booklet.
Yeah, it's going to be an e-book.
Yeah, and it's like everything you want to know about vegetables. I mean, it's deep. It's deep. It's got some really good stuff on it. We've been working on it together. I don't know how many pages this is, but
we're about 30 pages right now.
30 pages, and this will be available, I think, for purchase, but we'll figure that out, and I think it should be available in the next
well, right now you can go to culinaryyours.net, and there's a pop-up where you can get onto the list. Okay. So you'll be notified as soon as it's available.
There you go. So just go to cookinglikeapropodcast.net.
And that will take you, or you can just go to culinaryyours.net. That's our main
places
website.
To go, folks. There are nooks and crannies and
all roads
lead
to the same place.
So anyway, going with vegetables, one of the things that I am just a huge fan of, we're going to be talking about pickles, pickling food versus fermenting it. Well, first off, it's low calorie, it's very high flavor. These items that are pickled, you do have to be careful because it kind of falls what I put into that Asian understanding of how I see seasonings, things being seasoned in a Asian or Pan-Asian areas, which is they overemphasize sodium. So because of that, they way overemphasize sugar to balance out for the fact that you don't know that it's so salty. And you can grab just an Asian vinaigrette off the shelf and look at the label. You probably won't ever use it again, but usually it's like 3 parts sugar to 1 part salt. So there's a lot of salt, but then the sugar kind of helps balance that out. But anyway, that's kind of one of the things that goes along with when you're pickling something. So obviously you don't want to eat pickles every day, but pickled vegetables of all sorts. And I mean, from kimchi to sauerkraut. I'm a big sauerkraut fan. How
Not particularly.
What are your pickles? I know you like pickles. Your dad made the best bread and butter pickles in the world.
But there's a difference between true sauerkraut and quick kraut. The quick sauerkraut being a vinegar-based pickled item, and sauerkraut that is naturally fermented with salt and thyme and bacteria. It's a little different.
Well, and that's when you get to that fermentation, which is well better as far as the health benefit, because you got probiotics coming in, you got, a capture of vitamins, minerals. I actually went through and found the high sodium is really the thing you want to make sure that you're careful of. But again, we talked about the salt sugar combo, but I mean the blood sugar, it helps stabilize. Nothing grows in vinegar. That's kind of the way I always used to look at it. Nothing grows in vinegar. So how can it be bad?
Yeah, well, that's the pickling that, the fermented foods, we don't consume very many of those in the United States like other countries do. And you've heard a lot about gut bacteria lately, gut health.
Yes.
And because we don't eat a lot of fermented foods, that's one of the things that's harming our system. So trying to do the kimchi and the natural sauerkraut. And, I love kombucha, and that is naturally fermented black tea, and I love kombucha. So that's the way I get it.
Yeah, it's again, I mean, some of the things that I noticed was that this has been decades ago, but I was watching the Tour de France, and they were eating the bicyclists, if I pronounced that right, were eating pickle bars, like protein bars, but made out of pickles, and it's for leg cramps. You know, so there's something else that what was that look for? Oh, I'm serious.
I don't know.
It was.
Just to sit and eat pickles?
Yeah, pickles. Help you with your leg cramps, your muscle cramps.
Well, we
and
did.
Vitamins, A, C, K, a lot of minerals as well.
You will sit and drink pickle juice. I've seen you do that. Just take the pickle juice and just drink it.
Well, there's that little fad about drinking just straight vinegar too. It's really no different. Pickle juice.
Apple cider vinegar.
Pickle juice.
Yeah.
I think if I'm going to do shots, I'm going to do pickle juice before I do red wine vinegar, straight to my throat. You know, the acid reflux just. But you talked about gut health and we mentioned probiotics, but also antioxidants. So they're they fight off inflammation. So it's a great thing to do, and you can pickle anything. I mean, if you can fit it in a pickling jar, however big your jar is.
Well, it's a preservative technique. So, when you get things in a season that won't carry over the next season, how do you preserve it? And pickling was one of the best ways to do that.
You're canning with vinegar.
Yeah,
exactly.
And
then you're adding, shelf life by, you could probably say years, but I would definitely say, I would do it more of a seasonal thing. Like I know that you, my wife, she labels everything. There's a date on everything. And I'm not just talking about the refrigerator and the cupboards, but I mean, I'm surprised when I walk in, there's a date on the toothpaste. I mean, she's got this thing about labeling, and it's great.
I can't remember anything.
It's great. Oh, is that what? Okay, all right. Well, we all fall into that category as we're getting older.
I think, I'll remember next week that I made this. No. 2 days later, I can't remember I made it.
Oh, you know what I wanted to mention? Bonami. There was a real that was a sandwich that kind of almost seems like it fizzled out, but boy, when that thing is made right, I like the char siu, and I like to make my own char siu. Char siu is brined pork, and it has that good old red dye number 40 in it. That stuff will kill you if nothing else does. But then you have to, generally it can be pork, or it can actually be ground to almost like a pate. But then after that, it's pickled vegetables. Radishes,
carrots,
little bit of just about everything that could go in there.
I think radishes, carrots, and cucumbers.
Cucumbers, of course. Yes. Yeah. So, but a banh mi is it's a Vietnamese sandwich. And really the actual banh mi, the word means bread. Okay. So it's really more about the bread than it's just putting stuff in between the bread. And again, usually some sort of a pork in some fashion or another. Char siu is pork. So that's just one of the things we do. But it's just, you want a firm bread, because if you're going to do a banh mi, it's kind of a real moist, sandwich, because it's got marinated everything in it. So everything's got that moisture content. So I get a good bread, a French bread, slice that in half, and then kind of press down that middle dough. Like, let's say, think of it as like you're looking at a baked potato, and you press that down in the middle, because you want to make kind of like a boat shape. And you make that boat shape, and actually, but oil and water don't mix. So what I would do would be take that bread, press it down to make the bottom more of a boat. You can do the same thing with the top. Brush that with a little bit of melted butter, and then brown that in the oven, because water and oil won't mix. So the moisture from the vegetables won't go into the bread because of the oil that was baked onto the exterior. So that's always a good way of kind of, making sure you don't have a soggy sandwich. Like a French dip, right?
Yeah.
Like the old Hofbrau. Did you ever go to Hofbrau?
I have never been to a Hofbrau. I may have been to one a long
German,
time ago.
Just, you take the bread, just slap it in the juice and the grease, and then you pile a bunch of generally pork, but roast beef, turkey. I used to love the one in the old mall that we had here.
Isn't that where you would put sauerkraut on your sandwich?
Oh.
That's usually a German dish, right?
Oh yeah, Germans they'll put sauerkraut on just about anything. Wiener Schnitzel. Yeah, I had that when I was over there. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We appreciate you joining us here at Cooking Like a Pro, and we will be back in just a moment. All right, welcome back to Cooking Like a Pro with your host and hostess, Chef Cal and Mrs. Chef Christa. And, hey, pickles, that was a good discussion. I like that. I was coming across something today, about aroma. And one of the things that especially I had bought you that book from a lady that I had talked to. What was her name again?
Barb Stuckey.
What's the name of her book?
The book is called Taste What You're Missing.
Taste What You're Missing. Yeah, I've not read all of it, but it's a really cool book. And one of the things that it first points out is, and I don't think we consciously think about this, but what we taste, 90% of it is actually what we're smelling. Only 10% is what we're tasting. That's the breakdown that they have now. So we know what we've talked before about taste buds. We know our taste buds, around 60 years old, they'll quit replicating. Also, as you get older, there's other things that come into play. Medication is the first thing I think about, how that affects your ability to taste and your ability to smell. And I know that was how I found out that I had COVID. Was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he stopped tasting. Yeah, you kept adding salt and kept adding salt and kept adding salt, and I took a taste and I about fell over.
Yeah. Christa and our son Isaac both just spit it out, and I'm like, and that's what it took for me to realize that I was working a lot of hours and all that, so I was kind of tired anyway. But that was losing, and as a chef, losing your ability to be able to taste and smell is like it's like a pianist losing their hands,
fingers,
or their fingers, or maybe just some of their. Well, because I couldn't taste, and it took a while. I can't remember exactly.
It took several months.
Yeah, it took several months, and it kind of came back without me really noticing it because I was working, all the time also, and I kind of gotten used to having other people taste things. Because I can make something and look at it and know what I put in there and know whether it tastes good or not. I mean, I've been doing it long enough where that I can generally, and that's a chef's job. It's not for me to get food to taste how I want it to be. It's how I want to get food to a palatability of what the guest is going to enjoy. For example, I like food that's a little spicier where you don't. I mean, we fight over the fresh pepper. Boy, she sees the fresh pepper shaker come out, and I'm afraid I'm going to get hit with it.
No, I can't do it. But aroma is a key factor into whether something is done, whether it's roasted. You can put a cake in the oven, and 30, 45 minutes in, you won't smell. All of a sudden, you start smelling it.
Yes.
Then you know it's almost done. Or when it's almost burned, right? You're out in the other room and all of a sudden smoke alarm's going off and you're smelling something burning.
Yeah.
So it's a trigger to what process your food is going through.
Well, sulfuric vegetables are very much that way. And I added something in the booklet when I was looking at it today, that you're making available here shortly. And it was, I don't know. I had to do with smelling something, and not being able to taste. I think it's because, first off, you're getting it up close to your nose, right? So that's a part of it. So I was looking at some stuff. We know that we, since I'm going down a different rabbit trail anyway, that we can get sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and umami. Umami is also what we call savory. Some kind of like a mushroom flavor or an earthy meat.
Yeah.
Beef. That kind of thing. So there's a variety of things that we can taste, but when it comes to practicing, I know that for me, I believe going through my time in the wine industry, both connected with, as a chef and having wines on our restaurant wine list and stuff, but also a couple of years of completely running a winery down in Napa Valley. It was just learning vineyard management, how the grapes grow and all of this stuff. And then once you start practicing on the aroma, especially if you're writing a wine list, because you might go through 100 bottles to get a 10 bottle list. But you go through and it's that smell. What am I picking up? Because, it doesn't matter what you taste. Because if it smells bad, your mind's already going to be made up before it gets to your mouth.
Well, and our aroma is something that we lose when we're sick. So when you're sick, things don't tend to taste good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you tend to, you don't want to eat. And also I've learned that taste buds, when we were kids, we were taught, sweets on one side of the tongue, salty's on another side of the tongue, something's at the tip of your tongue. That's actually incorrect. It's actually incorrect.
Well, I know where my spice is. I know that much.
Yeah, a lot of that's in the back of the throat, but they have found that our taste buds are actually intermixed over the entire tongue. And if one area of your tongue dies, basically, that other areas of your tongue will pick up those traits to make up for it. It's actually pretty amazing what it does.
Yeah, I don't think I want to YouTube a video on, different parts of the tongue.
Well, but that's what this book is talking about, is what we taste is so much more than what we think is just putting something in our mouth and chewing and swallowing. There's so much more involved in it.
And we haven't even talked about, the very first thing. The very first thing is your sight. You see it. I bring my wife in, she's sitting at the table, and I bring her this beautiful piece of salmon. And it looks great on the plate. It's got, your vegetables with it, and maybe a nice starch or a grain of some sort. And she looks at it. So that's that first effect that you have before you can even smell it, right? And then you get the aroma. Does it smell like, the ocean? Is it like oceanic? Got that, or does it smell strong? Like salmon with the omega-3, with all the fats in there, can have a stronger smell to it. And then, if they took the bloodline off the bottom, that's another important component, because it's the bloodline on the bottom of the fish is that dark piece that's down there. If you don't trim that off, you're really going to have a much stronger flavored fish. And I don't care whether it's sea bass or halibut, there's always going to be that bloodline, which is next to the skin. But, and then after that, you still haven't tasted it yet. And now you're going to check the texture. Is this salmon flake apart, or is it hard? Is the texture tough? And they're very so it's almost like taste is not least important, but it's last.
The actual flavor, but before all that, the ambiance of the room affects taste. Sitting on the coast overlooking the Monterey Bay, things are going to taste different than if you're, in the back room, in the dark. And
ambiance is critical to a lot of things. I mean, if you have a conversation, you're having a good time, you're much less likely to, be sitting there just nitpicking at whatever's in front of you.
Is there beautiful music that makes you feel relaxed, or is it really loud and noisy, rock music that's irritating you? There's so many things that affect taste, but aroma is one of the primary.
You think rock music is irritating?
Depends upon how loud it is.
That's not all I got out of what you said, but one of the things that I was reminded of today when I was prepping was, remember we used to do those aroma seminars, and they were for wine tasting, and you would get a variety of wines. Let's say you got 5 white wines, 10 glasses, 5 white, 5 red, maybe just an ounce or 2 of wine in each one, and then each one is just enhanced with either just a drop of extract, or maybe a little bit of, let's say, pineapple juice, or a little drop of vanilla. And then you go through, and it's blind. So you put it on a piece of masking tape, put it on the bottom of the glass, and then you just do this as a group. It's a fun little training thing to do. But once you're able to pick up the aroma, it makes the taste component so much easier.
And here's something else I learned. Whenever you see all natural flavors on a label, it's actually aroma that's been added. So if you read, something that's peach flavored and it says all natural flavors, it has a peach aroma, especially in like a soft drink when you pop off the top and you can smell the peaches. It's from an aroma elixir that they've added.
Yeah, they've added some extract or flavor, from something. And I remember earlier when I lost my thought of train, it was broccoli. That's why I could walk into a restaurant and tell you if the broccoli is overcooked. But sulfuric vegetables are so obvious. And I just remember over the decades of doing this, walking in the kitchen saying, hey, pull the broccoli out of the oven, or pull the broccoli out of the steamer, or
cauliflower, Brussels sprouts,
turnips, that kind of thing. I seen something on Brussels sprouts the other day too, and it was one of the things that we'll get a video on it. In fact, we have one. I did one, but it's not up yet. We'll have to get that one up. Because if you don't know how to prep Brussels sprouts, you will ruin them. You have to understand it's like a little baby cabbage, and that center is a hard core. So you have to put like a little, basically it's just a cut, like a plus shaped cut on that core side, going in about a half an inch, or maybe a third of the way into the vegetable,
to allow the water to get up inside of it to cook it.
Or you're literally, the outside of the Brussels sprout is fallen off and into the boiling water wherever it is, or the deep fryer, and the inside's still undercooked. And that's what I noticed. They got this little trend you see of people fried Brussels sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
It's been around for a while, yeah. And you see them like when you see these things pop up, and then you see them everywhere. Remember, it's either a trend or a fad, folks. A fad will fade away, i.e., soft serve yogurt. Okay, I don't even know if you can find that. And at one point, it seemed like there was one in every corner. So I don't know, maybe that's just me. But that's kind of a big part of it. But if it's a trend, like, eating healthy and those things are going to continue on. So we talked earlier about like a bone meat sandwich. We see it everywhere. Now you don't see it at all. Or, chicken wings will be here forever. But, Brussels sprouts, I don't know. But you got to do them right. Most of the time I get them in a restaurant, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, and a lot of people have said when you've made their Brussels sprouts, like going, I have never liked Brussels sprouts before in my life. Yeah. Usually because they're bitter, because they're not cooked all the way through. Well,
that's one of the vegetables that where prep is like vital. Some things, you can get away with a little bit of leeway. You don't have to peel the fiber off the outside of your celery, if you don't want to. I do. I don't want to floss while I'm trying to eat my vegetables. But yeah, I think that, Brussels sprouts, you can definitely do those where they're just almost, I don't say inedible, but who wants a raw vegetable in the center? And they think they look good and they're all crispy and brown, but they're not cooked all the way. It's the prep. It's all in the prep.
But going back to aroma, you made a cauliflower last week where we par-cooked it in the microwave and got it cooked all the way through, then took it and popped it into the toaster oven to get that caramelized brown flavor.
Yeah, so
and
you
it
can
completely
get
changed the flavor of that cauliflower.
Hit it with some Himalayan salt and a little bit of a not cracked pepper, but regular pepper, and a little bit of butter, and oh boy, it was delicious. So anyway, hey, okay, I'm hungry. We didn't eat before we came here, and hopefully you're hungry too, folks. And we're going to take a quick break here. Cooking Like a Pro, Chef Cal and Mrs. Chef Christa will be back in just a moment. All right, well, welcome back. Well, we had some fun this week. Me and my wife. I was trained through a French apprenticeship program. I have to kind of set this up a little bit because I was trained that way. I was trained. When did I graduated it was 3 years, and I graduated in 81. Okay, so I started right in high school. So it's a French apprenticeship program, which means everything is made from scratch. It's made from what a chef would describe as the Bible of cooking, which would be a Escoffier. The French get, credit for quite a few things, mainly because they were the first ones to write stuff down. I think they documented it better, and Escoffier, there was, no one, like him, as the master. He actually wrote the menu for the Titanic.
Really?
Yeah. All 17 courses. And that's not why the boat sank, but boy, they had a heck of a meal. And we've actually had some fun with that over the years where we've done, events at our restaurants on the 100th anniversary.
Yeah, I think it was the 100th anniversary.
Yeah, we did that, and then we did it, a year or two later on that same anniversary, maybe the 102nd or something. But it was, very French, quite a meal. And again, I think it was at least 15, 16, 17 courses. But anyway, the point I wanted to get to is making things from scratch. What we really, I think desire to do, with this project, with Culinary Yours, with, Cooking Like a Pro podcast and all of these things is try to release you from, something my wife had, I don't know if you heard it or if you came up with it, it was the original thought, but the tyranny of recipes.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Get away learn how to make something from scratch, because then you have all this opportunity to go any direction you want. And you can say something as simple as making tomato sauce. So there's 5 mother sauces or main sauces, major sauces. But you take tomato sauce and then you add, brown sugar, vinegar, and mustard to it, and now you have barbecue sauce. So, you take this mother sauce, you add ingredients to it, and you make it a secondary sauce, or what we call a sister sauce. So mother sauce, main sauce, sister sauce, and the sister sauces just go on for chapters and chapters chapter in a Scoffier, but when you can make something from scratch, it's really going to open you up to be able to be so much more creative and be able to come up with so many ideas. And that's what my mind does when I think of things. So we did this process. So I want to have Christa kind of walk you through her take on it, because this is the first time that I think you've probably witnessed a brown stock from scratch. All right. Okay.
So, for all of you that don't know what a stock is, it is, okay, you guys think of the box or the can at the store that says beef broth or chicken broth, or you can get a base, chicken base, beef base, and you flavor some water.
The only stock I invest in is beef stock.
Beef stock. Okay. Well, there we go.
Not the beef stock that moves. It's the stock that comes from the...
It would have been a good investment there, Ben. It would have been a very good investment because, beef is nothing but go through the roof. Okay,
we're not talking about the stock market. Okay.
Yeah. So we had the bones. So we start with the beef.
So what type of bones were they? The shank?
Yeah, they take the shank and you want them to be cut in about 2 to 2.5 inch pieces, because what you're after is the bone marrow. The bone marrow inside is where the flavor comes from. So the bone has to be cut in order to have access to that. So yeah, you started off with the bones.
Okay, but first off, you preheated the oven, because we're going to be going into the oven. And then you took a pan and you browned off the bones.
Mm-hmm.
And then you... I can't remember.
Well, basically from that, I just went ahead and added some tomato paste there.
Oh, sorry.
And then we roasted it out in the oven for an hour.
With the bouquet garni.
Yeah.
And then also with the mirepoix?
Those went in the pot.
Better.
Both of those went in the pot. So we roast the bones so they get that brown flavor that we want, that beef brown look and beef flavor we want. We always add tomato. That's one of the mistakes I see so many people make, and chefs make, where they don't add tomato product to their beef dishes. And you have to, because if you don't, you've got a plain, flat, brown, ugly sauce that probably would be defined more as a gravy. Yes, you need
depth of flavor.
Yeah, you need tomato to add the acid, but more so to give it that amber look.
Because it also caramelizes.
Yep.
So anyway, that pan, hot, browned, went into the oven to roast. Was that about 400 degrees?
Yeah, 400 degrees for
about an hour. And then you took that out, and then you started to add the mirepoix.
Yeah. And the bouquet garni. And so there's only 4 ingredients on any stock. And again, as my wife said, stock is, it's just broth. It's just flavored broth. It can be fish, beef, chicken, veal, which is white beef, oyster, clam shells, shrimp. If you ever get shrimp, Mom, I forgot I had that conversation with Mom last night. She got these shrimp brought over to her, and they still had the heads on them. So kind of like a crawfish. When you eat a steamed crawfish, you eat the tail and then you suck the head. Well, the heads are generally used for your stock, and that's what Mom did. I'm so impressed with her. She she saved the shells, made a stock, and then made a chowder out of it.
Very nice.
Yeah. See, I don't know where that rubbed off on her, but boy, she figured it out. I was so impressed. I even told her that.
So anyway, so we took the brown bones. Actually, it's not we. I was behind the camera.
Everything's in the pot.
You did. Everything is now in the pot. You've added about a gallon of water, and then... did you add red wine to it also?
We deglazed it. We deglazed the pan with the bones in it, and that got all the last of those little scrap pieces in there. Okay. All this went in the pot. Your vegetables, which is your carrots, onion, and celery. Your bouquet garni, which is your aromatics.
And then
parsley, bay leaf, and thyme. Anyway, so all that went in the pot, and then it went for an hour. So it reduced by about a half, and we ended up with about a half a gallon.
Yeah. Set it and forget it, and then cool it down, and then the next stage will be to take that and turn it into a sauce. So right now it's gone.
All you gotta do is tighten it up. Now it's already been reduced by half, which the French word for half is
demi.
Demi, yeah, and it's been reduced by half. So now it's just going to need to be tightened up with the roux, and you can thicken up a sauce with the roux, which is equal parts butter and flour. But how many different colors of roux are there?
There is, first there is the uncooked, which is the beurre meunier.
Yeah.
And then when you do cook it, you've got white, which is barely cooked.
Yep.
Blonde, which is kind of cooked. and brown, which is the darker cooked.
Yeah. The blonde roux will start to get a little nutty in aroma, and you'll know. And what you're doing at this point when you cook the roux, which is again the flour and butter mixture, is you're trying to cook the starch flavor out of it. You don't want to taste that, that tongue stuck to your roof of your mouth, aspirin kind of, you don't want that flavor. So that's the starch, and so the starch has to cook out. So in a brown sauce, you'd use a brown roux. In a blonde sauce, you use a blonde roux. In a white sauce or a cream sauce, also the French know as bechamel, you would use a white roux. So the color of the roux matches the sauce, and again, it's really quite simple. It's those 4 ingredients. It's always going to be the main flavor of the item, the protein, beef bones, chicken bones, fish bones. So you got the main protein, you've got your bouquet garni, your aromatics, your mirepoix, your vegetables, and the last thing's water. And we always were told in our apprenticeship to always start your stocks with cold water. And I've noticed since then, I've seen some things where they'll take the bones, throw them in a pot, bring it up to a temperature, a heat. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was all the way to a boil, and then take off those impurities, strain it, and then start over with that. And to me, you're just losing flavor. You're just throwing flavor down. You can get those impurities out. I mean, I don't care if you have to use a coffee filter or if you have to use cheesecloth or, get yourself a chinois, but come up with...
capture the flavor first before you strain it.
Yes, yeah. But if those impurities are still going to have flavor. So, and there's also what we call a raft. So the raft would be the same thing one more time. You take the bouquet garni, you take the mirepoix, and in the case of beef, we would take some meat and we slice it up, chop it up super fine, almost a hamburger, but not quite ground, just chopped. You mix that together with egg whites, and then you put that on the top of your simmering stock. And if you had a pot that was glass, you could see the particles in the sauce as it simmers go up and down and up and down and up and down from the bottom of the pot to the top of the pot, the bottom. And when they go to the top, this mixture of beef, egg whites, and vegetables and aromatics will form what we call a raft, and they'll adhere to that. So by far it's the best way to purify it. And then you carefully take that off, and this is how you make a consommé.
It's consommé.
Yeah, if you want to go to the point of the consommé. The thing is, I can't remember the last time I've seen a consommé.
It sounds way too complicated. But it's the purest of flavors, right?
But if you take a spoonful of something that looks like a lightly off-colored water, and you just feel like someone just stuffed an entire Dungeness crab in your mouth, or an entire garden of tomatoes. Because the flavor is just that concentrated. And again, it's so much of this is a dying art. As I'm writing this book and I'm going through and I'm thinking about all the chefs that I've known that have since passed, and that's why I really should thank my wife for allowing us to go down to Monterey, because being able to talk to Bert Catino, one of just the there's not a whole lot of master chefs in the world, and he's 85 years old, and I know you got a chance to just kind of sit off on the side and watch, but we had about a 45-minute discussion, and so I don't know how enthralled you were, but I was very emotional.
It was very sweet. He's so passionate about the art and the craft and the hospitality of food service.
That's it. And it's just old school. It's just, it needs to be right. That's how I was trained. We can't obtain perfection, but as long as it's perfect, I'm okay. Right? Meaning, let's get it as best as we can, because that's what it's about. It's about family. It's about flavor. It's about community. It's about enjoying yourself, around the table. And it's about those relationships and memories which are created, folks. And, I think that's why we're really onto this, into this project. But, anyway.
And speaking of sauces, as I'm doing the vegetable booklet, I'm also writing a 30-page sauce and spice booklet. So that will also be coming up soon.
I've only looked at that one once.
Yeah, and that's got over
we'll get the vegetables out first.
100 sauces.
Anyway, we'll be back in just a moment. Again, you're with Chef Cal and Miss Chef Christa, Cooking Like a Pro. Back in just a moment.
Oh, We were down one song, so we're just coming in hot.
As long as the wheels are on the ground, we're good.
Hey, I just wanted to quickly say it's National Liqueur Day. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Liqueur.
Liqueur.
Yep.
Oh. All right. Well, I'll have to pour myself some Grand Marnier here. Yeah.
Okay, and speaking of days, there is International Chef's Day coming up on Sunday.
Oh, really?
Celebrate your chefs on Sunday.
Do I have to cook? Okay. Yeah, so, do that. When you go into a restaurant, maybe let the server know. Hey, it's National Chef's Day. Tell the chef that we said hello. Or tell the chef that we appreciate it. Because, it's hard work. I did it for a long time, and my body took a pretty good beating.
Well, we were speaking with Charlie and Kathy the other night that we interviewed last week, and they had got there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they were there till 9 o'clock that night. So that tells you how long and hard restaurants work is.
Especially when you get those family restaurants.
Family restaurants.
And just finishing up on the last block that we had, when talking about flavors and the tyranny, getting away from the tyranny of recipes, being, you start with recipes, start with recipes and then make them your own. But you do that by learning how to cook from scratch. So if I needed to tie a bow on that one,
and we talk about that in the booklet.
Oh, yes.
Learning how to mystery box cook.
Quite a bit. And one of the things on flavor also, since we were on the topic, being able to taste, being mindful of what you taste, think about what you're eating, think about what you're putting in your mouth. You don't have to stop and moan and close your eyes. I mean, I've done that, but at the dinner table. In like a really nice restaurant. And I didn't moan real loud, but that was...
Okay, I got to brag about one more thing.
Okay.
My very first tomato, the first one successfully grown in 12 years.
Oh, yesterday.
A full-size beefsteak.
Oh.
Came off the vine yesterday.
It looked like a mortgage lifter or something.
It was beautiful, and we had a beautiful BLT, and that tomato was so fragrant.
It was center stage actually on the sandwich. I'd almost say that the tomato might have even overpowered. You don't use a bitter lettuce on a BLT anyway.
It was beautiful. It was shiny. It was red.
Yeah, nice toasted potato bread.
But people, I am so proud that we have our first full-grown tomato that actually made it through the summer, made it through deer season.
Yeah,
we were able to enjoy it.
I took pictures of it, so we'll have to put that one up. We'll put that up on the site.
We'll get that one up on Instagram.
You can take a look at it. But anyway, on background flavors, being able to taste, being able to pick things up, and one of the things that I think is really been able to allow me to be successful over the decades was early on learning that there's a background flavor that has to be built. Okay, so it may be seasonings in there that the average person is not even going to taste, but they're going to say, yes, I like it. They're going to stop and analyze it, but they're going to say, yeah, that was a great broccoli and cheddar soup. But maybe they didn't realize that we took the stalks and boiled them down to get a broccoli broth. Just instead of just starting with water, you're starting with broccoli broth, so you got even more flavor. And then maybe you used a sharp cheddar instead of just a regular soda. But maybe they're not even noticing. They're just saying, wow, that's a really nice broccoli cheddar soup.
And if you took the time to roast your garlic and use it instead of just a raw flavor. Garlic, that's another depth of flavor.
But the background flavor that I ended up coming to this was 89 when we started DeMercurio's, and that was what we call secret salt. And it's just 2 parts salt, 1 part white pepper, 1 part granulated garlic. But that went in to about everything that I made except for dessert. And sometimes I made white pepper ice cream. Crab ice cream. We do, sometimes you venture off and shove some savory over into the sweet category. But it always had this background flavor of this light seasoning. It was all light colored. I didn't use black pepper. I used white. But everything got just a little dusting of that.
White pepper tastes quite a bit different than black pepper, so it gives a little bit different background note to it.
It doesn't have the shell.
Yeah.
Right? The shell's been removed. That's black pepper has the shell on it, so it's ground up, so it's black and white. Where white pepper is not. That's why white pepper is expensive. But anyway, so flavor. But anyway, those background flavors start solid, and that gets us back to really our discussion about stock. Is you've got all those background flavors. I'm not going to taste this thing and say, wow, I'm really picking up the thyme, or I'm really getting the carrots, or wow, the garlic's really coming through. No, it's this balanced combination of flavors that's complete. And it starts with that back, and then it comes forward from there.
And that's where I'm right now. The 5 ingredient recipes are really the rage right now. It's another one. If it's going to be a fad or a trend. But I look at those and go, but you are missing out on so much flavor, because everybody's looking for speed. They're looking for convenience. And really the only true way you can get a 5 ingredient recipe is to use pre-made items that you've mixed together, 5 different ones, because you're not going to get the density, the layer of flavor. It's just the thought behind it coming through.
Yeah, and again, do we want to enjoy it? Again, I do have one of the chapters in my book is titled "Live to Eat and Eat to Live," and we've talked about that numerous times here on the show. But do we just want to eat so we can get to our next task? Do we want to eat so we have energy to do whatever's next on the list? Or do we want to enjoy ourselves? And that has to do with bringing in community and bringing in, discussions and having these again, family, memories created. Now, I mean, as an Italian family, maybe that's, your family, my family, we're a little different dinner was a little more quiet at your house than it was at my house, because literally we got 8 people and there's 4 conversations going on. So each there's 2 people talking in 4, and it's across the table, and
but you have multiple generations, and 4 or 5, 10 people in each generation, so there's more people.
Yeah. But that was always a lot of fun, and I did want to mention, because I know that we went out. We don't really go out much. It might sound like we do because we talk about it a lot, but we went out and to a restaurant where something happened that I just disagree with. I'll just put it that way, because there's a reason we're called hospitality industry. The first word, hospitality, coming from the word hospital, coming from the idea of taking care of people. But this restaurant we went out to, and what their policy was they wouldn't let anyone sit down till the whole group is there. And I can understand that. From
a business standpoint, if you needed to turn tables, and we were a large party coming in.
There are always those circumstances where you have to consider the different, things that are going on, and Dad wasn't feeling real well and standing in this big crowded little entryway waiting. So I just think.
Yeah, there was a situation where we weren't all there, and we couldn't get seated, and my father-in-law was on oxygen. And
there's a number of restaurants that do that here in town, and I know why, because I've had restaurants, and I've thought about maybe this would be a policy to do, but you do. I think you have to take it on an individual basis. Maybe that's what I should say.
Well, I'd say from a customer standpoint, know before you go, if you are going in as a large party, find out what the restaurant's policy is for getting seated.
Well, if they take reservations, most people don't even do that anymore. But, that's going to depend on a restaurant and how successful they are. But yeah, you have to come up with policies that work. But I think you always have to err on the forgiveness side for the guest, because you are there for the guest. I remember being in restaurants where, you get up and go to the restroom and you come back and your cloth napkin's been refolded into whatever the fold, we have.
I remember that. It was folded on my seat of my chair. It was so sweet. I'm like, it was so nice to do that for me.
Yeah, and those are just the type of things that really separate it. And you can find that in all different areas.
It just comes down to preparation. Preparation from the guest standpoint and preparation from the restaurant standpoint, so that all the bases are covered. So when a situation arises, you're able to adapt, you're able to accommodate, and that there doesn't become a big brouhaha or situation and overcrowding, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, we even did, even something getting back to the details, I just thought, remember DeMercurio's, we actually offer people chilled salad forks. So for your salad. So your salad was on a, ice cold salad on an ice cold plate with an ice cold fork. Hey, texture, temperature, that makes it salads. You want them to be crisp, right?
And I remember the Red Lion, the little bread things with you had different little sticks and crackers and things on it. So if they were busy, I used to love those. I was 4 years old, and I remember going to the Red Lion and having the crackers to keep me entertained and dealt with until service was able to happen.
Good service really stands out. So we'll leave it at that. All right, good service stands out.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. Until next time, we hope you'll be cooking up a storm in the kitchen. So we'll be with you again next week with food, flavor, and fun right here on Cooking Like a Pro podcast.